What are some of the things that you think about in your own home to protect your family that you think every family should probably think about implementing?
A lot of layers. The lights. You look in the direction of our house, lights are coming on. I think that's underrated is dogs, bro. They're just the best alarm system.
Yeah, I have one little dog who is the only one that barks. The big dog doesn't bark.
One of the major value adds that we've been able to connect people with and that you can go and find yourself is Deep Sentinel. Because what they do is they have a call center. So the AI recognizes, hey, this is weird. Someone's doing something weird.
For those armed guards who do that, what are maybe some things for those parents who go support the schools, some of those armed guards who work the schools? What are some thoughts just instinctually just off the top of your head?
We have an in-dock. Guys come out, they shoot FBI qual, Marine Corps shooting qual, local LA Sheriff, LAPD qual, and Marine Corps pistol qual. So they pass local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, military pistol quals.
It's a tough thing. I think if you're in law enforcement, if you carry a gun, it is your responsibility to be prepared and be trained.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Vincent Vargas. I'm the host of the Time to Head North podcast, brought to you by the North Group. Security refined by intelligence.
What's up, Byron Rogers here at the Time to Head North podcast. This podcast is brought to you by TNG Defense. It is security refined by intelligence. And so if you guys are looking for any corporate security, personal security, any kind of security, that's who to call.
Well,
now I talk about personal security. You know what I mean? I have the man right here, dude. If you don't mind, can you kind of give the audience a little bio of yourself?
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me, man. It's such an honor to hang with you,
Absolutely.
honor to hammer on these things. So I guess for me, I started in this industry in 2008, right after getting out of the Marine Corps, 2 deployments to Iraq. And then by the grace of God, got pulled in at 21 years old. And it's essentially all I've done my entire life is executive protection. My first detail was a 7-year run, and it was with a large speaker. And so we were averaging upwards of 50 countries per year. So I kind of grew up in this game in dog years, man. And so it's all I eat, slept, and breathed. And then I clicked off and left California, went to Florida for a little while, started building my books up there, broke into the Florida market on the East Coast, and then eventually came back to California, and got back into the game out here, chasing the pager, domestic private security contracting, working for 8 different companies and just taking every gig that comes up, and then which gave me, a different look at the experience, kind of serving every client demographic in the game. And then in 2017, launched my company, Bravo Research Group, actually, which was started by a client I worked with that I had separated with, called me a year later and said, hey, we want you to take over everything. And so that's how Bravo started. And now I'm at the helm of a few private security companies. And, I've been brought into I'm a Knight of Malta, helping with security things around the world. They're in about 120 countries. And God is good, man. I just try to be dependable, do good work, and, try not to mess it up. He does the rest of it, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, explain me what it says, Sir Byron Rogers on your account. So is that what the whole Knight thing is? Can you explain it to me?
Yeah. So the Knights of Malta, formerly known as the Hospitalia, the Hospitalers, one of the oldest sovereign orders of knights and chivalry in the world. Like the Knights Templar and the Knights of Malta is like your 2 kind of main ones. They used to focus on medicine and protecting hospitals, but now they're focusing a lot more on doing humanitarian things around the world. So it's the smallest sovereign nation, in the world under the Geneva Convention. We don't have a specific country, but everyone in the nation has been brought in based on merit. So they handpick people based on their achievements and capabilities. So it's just such an honor. I was brought in last year. I was the youngest guy. I've been there with a bunch of colonels and generals and, people that, have done quite a bit in life. And, I'm helping with security posture to help them deliver aid around the world, helping building structures around that. So such an honor.
That's good. That's cool. That's an accomplishment, man. That's something that, not everyone obviously gets. And so that sounds pretty cool.
Yes, sir. You got a drop of blue blood now, just a drop, So, yeah.
Well, this this whole podcast is about security, and I like to focus on different areas for people.
Yeah.
I think, the demographics of this podcast is some of them, it's just regular old people, right? Just people at home looking to be better with their own personal security. And so I'll ask personal security, I'll ask kind of corporate security after that later on, but just basic home security. What are some of the things that you think about in your own home to protect your family that you think every family should probably think about implementing?
Yeah. 100%, man. I mean, it's the cool thing about being in the private security game is we leverage skills as civilians to protect, 1% of the 1% of the world. And so when we come back, it's like, we're not, law enforcement. We're not military. We prior maybe, but we learn the best ways for a civilian to keep a civilian safe. And other than the amount of money that they can pour into, that's interesting. They can pour into their plans. We can do a lot of the same things. So I approach it. I use a lot of layers, at my home. To give a high level answer, and then I can get more granular with it. But a lot of layers at my house. If you come to my house, you're going to get hit with the lights. You're going to see, the lights turn on. And I like bright lights. Like, you look at my house wrong, it should be reacting to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you walk by the house, the lights are on. They're all the way out in the street, belligerent. But I live we got about 13 acres out here, so you look in the direction of our house, lights are coming on, right? You look in the direction of our house, you're seeing all the signs. Hey, we have professional protection here. We have this alarm system. We have this camera system. We have dogs. We have guns. You know what I'm saying? So just that whole battle, so much of it is just being a harder target than the rest of the pack, and so you get a little bit closer. Now you're going to start to trip our hunting cameras, and we're going to know that you're on property. You get a little bit closer, you're going to start running into Deep Sentinel cameras, which are AI driven, and they're going to start triggering, and live guards are now going to be watching you as you get into that next ring on property. We got 2 Cane Corsos, like 300 pounds of dog running around out here.
Big dog.
And then as you get inside and you come in contact with whoever's home, they know where their force multipliers are. They're probably on their person. We know where our medical gear is, and we have an emergency management plan. And that's huge, is having that emergency management plan for a number of different things: human threats, fire, earthquake, bugging out, like really. And it's not voodoo. It's really just kind of thinking through, like, if I can leave my house really quick, like, what do I need to have in my vehicle? And so when it comes to home protection, it's something that I'm actually starting to really lean into, helping people create an emergency management plan and really helping them learn how to secure their castles with that same layered approach. Because all the things that I mentioned are like, they're consumer priced items that greatly secure your property. Now we have the Gucci ones for the clients, but there's so many things as a consumer on Amazon you can do to make it so that nothing's moving around that you're not aware of and that you don't have a contingency plan for.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny. I think when you said you just got to think about it. I think there's too many families that don't think about just the basics. They might think about the food they're going to have for dinner, but they think about the kind of the big picture, how the family is. I too have very similar kind of, you got the cameras, you got the lights, you got all the reactions, you got all the things. And, I got even more. When I left the military, I went to law enforcement. I was still very on edge. I was still very prepared. When I left law enforcement and went into acting, I became less thoughtful of those things because my world didn't revolve around chasing bad dudes.
Interesting. Right? Yeah.
And then when COVID happened, that's where it all came back, right? Because I thought, here we go.
Yeah.
It's about the fan. And so at that point, I was like, what am I doing? So I'm like, we have to have a plan. We have to do this. We have to do that. And that's where I was like, man, it's crazy how, someone who's so highly trained got very complacent because life was different. I didn't have to worry about those things. I had security guards following me around, dude. You know what I mean? Like I was the guy now that had security instead.
That's awesome.
So I got complacent. And I think that just the families have to sit down and have a conversation about that. And it's very basic, basic cameras with lights surrounding your home that go to an iPhone that you can see. Things like that are just very basic that anyone could have these days. And I think it instills a lot of comfort in my own wife to know that, I can see all the cameras, especially late at night. If she hears something, she can say, "Hey, can you check those cameras?" Like, yeah, you got it,
Yeah, because that is our enterprise. That's our kingdom. And we're working, like I'm a working guy. So I may or may not be home. I'm on the road serving people and generating. I'm home a lot more now because I get to drag and drop teams and stuff. But, like far be it from me for anything to happen. One of the massive kind of value adds I don't know how you guys are about plugs here, but like just mentioning the company. Yeah. So one of my sponsors is Deep Sentinel. And one of the reasons I partnered with them is because I've had this happen so many times over the years where something happens on property and then I have cop friends and, that same thing, something happens and something gets stolen or broken into and you roll up and you see, the client or staff and they're like, "We got it on this thumb drive right here," even me, I'm like, "Do we get it on the cameras?" And you got it on the cameras. And then it's like, "All right, let's see what we got." And it's like, blurry guy with a mask on, like robbing you blind. And you get to watch the whole thing happen and nothing's actionable. No, it's for forensics and it's sucky forensics. So one of the major value adds that we've been able to connect people with and that you can go and find yourself is Deep Sentinel. Because what they do is they have a call center. So the AI recognizes, hey, this is weird. Someone's doing something weird. Like the other day, I was working on my chicken coop and I had some bolt cutters and they call me up and they're like, "Hey, Byron." They're like, "Is this you? It's Mr. Rogers. Is this you out in the yard with bolt cutters?" I'm like, "I love you guys. Yes, it is."
Yeah.
So now there's an extra set of eyes. It's like halfway having a residential team watching your property, solar driven. So I don't have to worry about the batteries nearly as much. And so otherwise, we're all on the other end of the spectrum, getting a notification on your phone when you're like not there. If you even pay attention, because the dang notifications on our phones, man, like blocking out your phones are like an art in and of itself.
I shut off almost every notification already.
Yeah, exactly. And the human's always the weakest link. So that's been huge for being able to make sure that someone's watching the property at all times, putting that at choke points and on the perimeter. But then the other thing too, man, I think that's underrated is dogs, bro. Like, they're just the best alarm system. Don't expect your dog to fight a human. They've been listening to humans their whole life unless they have training. But a little dog with some big ears, like someone looks at your house, you got an alarm system, and so that's, God bless them, man. My Connies, I might add one little dog just to make sure that, they're.
Yeah, I have one little dog who is the only one that barks. The big dog doesn't bark.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she'd ever do anything, to be honest. She'd probably run. But my little one, she hears everything and I'm like, stop. But it's like the best thing we got.
Right. No, I love it, man. And then, and so like leveraging the tech is big. And then it's just like really thinking through, like I said, we're going to roll something out this year and people can get in contact with me if they want, but I want to start getting people into understanding how to put together an emergency management plan, and all it really is thinking through your risk profile and relevant threats. You live in a zip code where there's a lot of burglaries. Well, how are you going to deal with that? Do you have a ladder in each kid's room if they're on the second level, which can also help you out with your fire plan, right? Do you have force multipliers in places that are the highest traffic places in your home, right? Do people have the training on those things, right? Do you guys have a plan if you hear a bump in the night? Like, kids, come to my room. Do you have an intercom system? Do you have a group chat set up with your neighborhood or with your family where you can get everyone and communicate and call everyone at the same time? If you need to tell them to stay there. Have you walked through your house and looked at your geometries of fire? Do you have medical aid in different places where you may need it in a hurry? Do you have a cold position if you evacuate your home? So where everyone knows, like, hey, if you have to jump out your window tonight, later on tonight, where you want to meet up? And these things can be taught in a way that makes people, this is the thing about security, I think, that adds a little friction for the civilian, is they're like, well, aren't you paranoid? Like, you don't want to scare people. It's like, the funny thing about that is preparation leads to confidence, right? So when we have anxiety around something, it's because we know that we are not ready. I'm getting ready, you're about to hit a stage or something like that. Like, okay, sweet. Let me run through my notes. Let me run through my presentation and let me murder this anxiety with confidence and competence, And so when your family knows, especially as the head of the house, male or female, that you put some forethought into this, we have a plan. We drill it on Saturdays once a month until we all know it. They're going to feel they're going to be more well taken care of, whether they like it or not. And they're going to feel that. And it'll be counted to you as glory, I think, as respect in the long run. So, just pull protocol.
I love that. It's exactly, it's something I do just based on my background. I always kind of walk a perimeter or pay attention to it. Look what looks like ease of access, what doesn't. I also do a lot of volunteer work at the local private schools here as an armed guard. So the days that they don't have one, I show up and I work, wear the little uniform and everything.
Oh yeah, good on you. That's what's up, man. They got you. You're a good man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But the cool thing about it is, man, I like to walk the perimeters there more so and understand, the entrances and exits that potentially in the event of, an active shooter situation happens. And it's something that has become very instinctual to me to know the lay of the land, to understand it's like the back of my hand. So I know exactly how to respond to a situation like that. It's something that I think our kids will not have a life where they don't anticipate or expect or think about a potential threat to their own schools these days. It's just the common. Yeah, unfortunately, exactly. For those on guards who do that, what are maybe some things for those guys who are, maybe those parents who go support the schools, some of those armed guards who work the schools? What are some thoughts just instinctually, just off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think the disparity when it comes to like the private security industry and the quality of individuals, like the real issue with that is the level of training, So when it comes to, it's kind of like the Wild West, so when we're standing up a long-term and I'm just giving them the truth. You already know where I'm going with it.
I'm letting you say it, bro.
And I love you guys, but when I'm standing up a long-term detail, we have an in-doc. Like, guys come out, they shoot FBI qual, Marine Corps shooting qual, local LA Sheriff, LAPD qual. So and Marine Corps pistol qual. So they pass local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, military pistol quals. They do a quick stop the bleed where they demonstrate that they understand tourniquets and can stop bleeding, start breathing, protect wound, treat for shock. And so I know that these dudes are as advertised, right? Before I can put my name on them for my company and throw them out there in the world and put them on a team. And so I think that's kind of the largest thing, because right now in the private security industry, generally it's like, yo, what's your background? Okay, you got a good background. Come on in. But when we run these in-docs, what we generally see is that our demographics of law enforcement and military, because I'm a Marine, we're guilty of it too, is, it's been a while. It's been a while since and if you were a Marine, you didn't really run a pistol. I did, because I was, I was an assaultman, so I had a rocket launcher and a pistol, and a rifle. But like, most guys don't touch a pistol. And so they get to these in-docs and they're like, I've been to war, I'm the guy. And then I'm like, yo, bro, this is a shooting qual, not a performance drill. This is a baseline of proficiency that the government or law enforcement or military requires for you to perform on the job just to get your paycheck. Okay. So, and what I see is the civilian guy who's like the gun nerd, who's like training with, Jimmy Cool IG guys, and I hit the mats like 3 times a week, like a couple times a week, and I try to shoot once a month or whatever. Those guys do the best. Saying, and all us military law enforcement guys are sleeping sometimes. Not all. There's straight savages out there, but a lot of times we rested on our laurels. So especially when it comes to a position which is like maybe like a lower paying position, I think it's really important, that you find a company that has some type of training or some type of vetting process, or you just nudge that company and say, hey, you get, for security company owners out there, when you're in your negotiations, build in a training budget. It's a couple $1,000s to take your guys to the range, get them ammo, and get them training quarterly. It's not too heavy, but it's so important. And then build out that training jacket on each guy. Well, this guy qualified 2 times last year at a level on or above local law enforcement, the military, federal law enforcement. Have a qualified witness that comes with the training. There's a whole bunch I could talk about on that. But for you guys out there doing the work, the reality is, and I say this all the time, protection's more than just a job. It's really a lifestyle. And it's the way you live your life and the habits you integrate on a daily basis that make it so you can perform on your worst day on the job. And if you're sleeping on that, you might be robbing people. Like you might be like, you're kind of wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like you're a butler with a gun, baby.
Yeah,
like
dude.
you're kind of like just deterrence, you know?
It's not kind of, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be the guy, but I guess I'm the guy today, So
yeah. When I was in law enforcement, even now, like if I'm volunteering at the school, I take it seriously, man. I show up like clean shaved. I even take my earrings out because when I was in law enforcement, you didn't wear those.
Let's
so I want to
go.
go present.
I love
You know what I'm
it,
saying?
man.
But as well as like I make sure my gear is good before I wake up in the morning early, get my gear on, and I'm doing dry fire.
Yep.
I'm doing dry fire drills just to be familiar with everything
Yep.
and get ready. You know what I'm saying? And it's just because I want to be ready in the event that something does happen. I want to make sure that I'm performing at the max level to make sure I save as many lives as possible. And I know it's not the same for everyone. I know it's not the same for everyone because not everyone comes from the same pedigree as I do, and not everyone sees it the same way. And that's the scary thing about when I was in law enforcement is that your partner could be your liability. And that's a scary thing. And so like, it's a very, like you show up as a board appraiser, you show up and they tell you, hey, today you're working with him. You're like, you know, and it's like, you don't know if that dude's going to want to just do the work or not do the work. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's a tough thing. I think if you're in law enforcement, if you carry a gun, it is your responsibility to be prepared and be trained, you know, and physically fit as well to add to that.
100%. I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why I do what I do, man. That's why I've leaned into training. That's why I've leaned into that phrase, protection is more than just a job, it's a lifestyle. This is the same for us, man. You know, details start going out, dudes are chasing the pager, dudes are getting hit up. You show up on a detail, 4-man detail, 2-man detail, whatever. It's like a pickup game of basketball. And you don't really know if the other guy has done his thing, you know what I mean? And so, and is ready, you know, and nothing happens. And this is what's scary about private security is 110% of the time, nothing happens. And so dudes can start thinking that just because nothing's happened, they're that good. You know what I'm saying? They can start thinking that that's because they're that good. When in all actuality, you just haven't been checked yet. Like no one's lifted up your skirt to see what's under there yet. And that's what's really dangerous about private security. And I think probably because I, was in combat and I had my freaking skirt lifted up once or twice. Yeah, look, I'm not getting caught sleeping, bro. I'm going to Valhalla if it happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't, you know what I mean? It's already unfair. Better men than me already die. You know what I mean? Like guys that I thought were my heroes died over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, far be it from me to try to like phone in the reality that I might have to fight for my life. Because when we write a blank check and leave our house every day to go to work, so, but Pericletus said it, man. And of every 100 dudes, like 10 of them shouldn't even be there. 80 of them are real fighters, or 80 of them are just targets. 9 of them are real fighters. We're lucky to have them. And then there's the one, right? And he's a warrior, and he'll bring the rest home. And that's who I'm trying to be. And that's who I am looking when I'm hiring the guys that I work with or try to be. So we don't feel weird when we do our at least 3 presentations before we leave the house. You know what I'm saying? When you're in your underwear with your freaking belt on, reloading over the bed, dropping mags. Yeah, I'm saying it's the lifestyle stuff. Man.
Hey, I saw my son, he woke up because he wakes up for wrestling practice. And so we're both up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm doing dry fire drills, and I see him by the porch through and he's just watching me.
Like, what's Dad doing,
one day you're going to know what that is, son. One day you're going to understand what he's doing. You know?
Man, welcome to the light. And it's not enough for the civilians. I'll say one more thing on that. It's not enough anymore, I think, just to be like a good person and like go to work and come home. Because the world's changing, man. And, someone asked me, I've had some like certain different clients, different cultures. And one of the nannies was like, why do you believe, why do you carry a gun? Why do you believe in this stuff? And we actually had a really honest conversation. And I just told her, I was like, I just can't ever be in a position where people I love or people who hire and depend on me are at the mercy of evil people. Because there's no reason with evil. Me and you have seen real evil. And it's like, I just can't. allow that to happen ever. And so if I'm able to be armed, I will be armed, and I will be as efficient as possible. If they catch me, they catch me, but it ain't going to be one of those situations where I could have done something and I didn't deliver, you know? And so
my wife doesn't question it, why I carry, but I would question myself if I didn't, because I would feel terrible if something happened the day I didn't carry and I couldn't support.
Yep. And you're sitting there with your hands up and you can't stop anything from
No, I would, man,
you know,
I always tell, like, even if I've done some security at places. When I was at Mayans, we were doing an event, and there was a security dude that he just didn't look like he had his shit together. Right. I could tell, like, this guy's just not, he's not, and so I thought, like, if something goes down, I'm going to take his gun and do work.
Yep. This man is a warm holster for me for the rest of the day. 100%. 100%.
I'll let him carry the weight, but we need to use it. Sit down, buddy. I got this.
And all those dudes out there, and civilians, CCW, everybody out there that's like, they ask me all the time, like, what gun would you carry? What gun do you think is your best gun or whatever? And I'm like, and I for sure have my picks. But the reality is, homie, the technology's there. It's going to go bang. What you really need to be asking yourself is, what is your training regimen going to look like? Get a dang trainer for like 90 days and get brought up to a certain skill level, and then just do some maintenance. It's like anything. If you don't have any training, especially, and you're not physically fit, homie, you're a warm holster, because you better believe the bad dudes are out there freaking doing cheap, dirty deeds for cheap right now on the street. They're earning their stripes right now. They're scrapping with each other right now. Like, the wolves are dangerous. They live a dangerous life. You're going 9 to 5 and hoping that you're going to have what it takes to deal with someone who lives in the darkness when the darkness comes to visit you. And
absolutely.
So, yeah, man, that's the game.
Absolutely. Let me ask something, not to get too personal, but like, does your significant other carry, or is it something that she's not confident and you do it alone? What is that?
Fantastic. I was actually hoping you would go here. So the answer is yes, and this is how we did it. So, me as the protector of the home, provide, protect, I'm old school, you know what I'm saying? God's God, I'm king, she's queen. She has an organic role of being a protector. Like, there's no way around it. Like, she's with the kids out in public. She's a beautiful California girl. Like, she's actually a target herself. And with the human trafficking epidemic, the kids are a target. So I feel like it would be super unprudent for me not to empower her to protect herself and the kids, because ain't nobody hunting me, really, depending on what contract I'm on, maybe, but like generally, which is why I'll never see my family on social media. But yes, so one, it's a lifestyle. Obviously it's a little uncomfortable to carry a gun physically, but emotionally, once you know what you can do with it, it's pretty awesome. It's probably the most empowering thing. Something I tell a lot of women is, like, especially if you had trauma in your life, if you've been victimized, which is at least 1 in 4, like, you start to arm yourself, you're a completely different creature. You are now just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than most men. You look at me, I'm dangerous. That makes me less dangerous. You're going to come step to me completely differently than if there's a female that has a knife or a gun on her. And we've seen it in videos. The bad guys don't even expect it to come from the female, which ambushing is their primary tactic, but that's another conversation. So the way I got my wife to carry is, I have a good friend, Fabio Spinella, who does My Own Defender. He has like a 6-week train up where he sends you online videos to show you how to dry fire, to show you how to put on a tourniquet, to show you these different skills. And then we meet once a month on Saturdays at the range, and he cleans up your skills, whatever principle he was teaching you that week, whether it's grip, whether it's sight alignment, sight picture, and builds you out over a 6-week process to become a better shooter. And you will be you'll at least be like a competitor shooter level, better than most law enforcement guys by the time you come to this. So we did that 6 week or 6 months, it may have been 6 months, we did that workup together. Because obviously there can be friction when you're teaching your spouse and all this other stuff. I was like, I'm in a third party for this. And by the end of it, man, I mean, if I'm telling the truth, by the end of it, we did a competition in the class, and I'm a B-class competitive shooter, bro. Like, I don't suck. I'm pretty good at this. Like, I don't, I'm pretty good at it. And man, I'll never forget it, man. I beat my half of the class, which was like, and then she beat her half of the class. And I was like, wow, this is my, this is my empire here. So now we face off. And bro, when that beeper went off, she was so fast. She drew, boom, took the shot. And by the grace of God in heaven, she missed. But it wasn't a lot of damage. And then I had my time to clean it up and take it home. But, she like kind of counted coup on me. And if it was combat shooting, she probably would have hit the guy. So, that was a beautiful moment for me. And then, as a female, now she's carrying, and we've worked through the wardrobe issues and the comfort issues. And
Yes.
And now my number one human asset and my children, my seed, my lineage are much safer. So, if she's at a grocery store, and I've had some close friends, one that we both know, broad motherfucking daylight in Florida, like legit dudes try to kidnap family members and stuff like that. This is the world we live in now. Humans are a massive resource to the dark powers, and we're the number one devourer of innocent humans on the planet here in America. So
yeah, it's crazy because I work so much with the border.
Yeah,
that I already know, and so we're very mindful in how we do things in our household. Just in the event that if we become the target, we're ready for it. But I love hearing that. It's not all women are. My wife will go shooting with me, but she still hasn't been comfortable with carrying, and that's okay, right? I want to get her there, and it's a slow process, And I carry with us, but I would love to get her comfortable enough to start carrying.
100%. And I think I think the two cheat codes that really helped me, and maybe this will help the listeners, is we just started going to trainings together, and that kind of get that team dynamic going. And then we, just working through the comfort of it is tough. And then with any anxiety around carrying, it's really a matter of reps and comfort and all that stuff. And so I just worked through that with her until finally she's like, I feel great having my gun on me. You know what I'm saying? We went through the process of not having one in the pipe to having one in the pipe.
Yeah, right.
Baby step, but as men, we got to be super patient with this. You know what I'm saying? This is where we mess it up because, the Marine in me wants to be knife hand,
Bro, my wife, we went shooting a couple times, no issues.
Yeah.
And then we went to a bigger caliber pistol, and she got some anxiety.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. You have to be don't be a dude about it. Don't be a dude about it.
And I had to back it. I was like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't understand it. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Just pull the trigger. It's great. It's awesome.
It's fine. Just And so, I had to learn that. But no, man, I appreciate hearing that. I think the listeners are gonna appreciate that. And I too was looking for a place for my wife. We're probably gonna move back to Salt Lake City here soon, and there's a women's club at the rink. And so try and get her into this women's shooting and donuts, or they just hang out in a female social. So they're surrounded by other women, getting coached by other women, and kind of in that community. And so I think those are other really healthy ways of getting your spouse or significant other involved in shooting and getting comfortable behind, holding a pistol.
That's massive because women are much more culture oriented. They're much more community oriented, they're designed for community. So you get her in a culture where they start, they're all into their thing and all this stuff. And, that's a cheat code, right? That's a cheat code. I love it.
Well, dude, man, I don't want to take, we're going to have to do this again, man, because this went too fast. But, hey, is there a nonprofit out there that you want to give a shout out to, give them some love?
A nonprofit. There is Sentinel Foundation is what I would say for a nonprofit, man. Sentinel Foundation, they're doing some awesome stuff. I was just with them last weekend doing the Father Foundation podcast, and they, their ability to really track and do some things in the world, the amount of good that they're doing in the world. Ooh, I just got another one too. They're awesome. Can I mention the second one?
What's your other one? Go ahead.
The second one is ARC, the Association for Recovery of Children, Basil Baz and Tina. They're close friends, almost mentors, really good people. And they're doing a lot of amazing things as well. So I'd say between those two, these guys are the real deal. You know, your money's going to go to good use. It's going to go where you want it to go. And they're all about the mission. Like, they live for this stuff. So those are the two I would go with.
Well, I appreciate your time, brother. I mean, we're going to have to do it again, man. There's so many questions I want to get to, but, you know, I don't want to run too much time. But again, dude, Byron, dude, thank you so much. Sir Byron, thank you so much.
Yo, it's such an honor, bro. Man, we got to do some stuff this year. I'm looking forward to all of it, man. Here, I'm at your service.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk offline on a few things I already can think of right now that I'd love to throw with you.
Let's go.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Boom.